Hey everybody, welcome to Arcane Duels. This is Intangible.
It's Koshin.
And I'm Harry Poppins.
And today we have with us the one, the only, Aaron Brosman. Say hi, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
So he stuck with us this time because he promised to give us an interview during GenCon, but he was too busy. So now, now
What a
we have him
surprise.
for a lot longer over Skype. He is at our beck and command.
He's a prisoner of the internet. Let's go.
So
In the background, you guys are probably seeing a game start. This is actually one of the Play the Developer games at Gen Con that happened. And I think you're versing a Force Master, and you're using your Jaktari.
I believe so.
This could be awkward if that's not the one.
I think that's the one that got taped, but my Gen Con does kind of all bleed together across like 4 days. But
Just a lot of Mage Wars.
So I'm just letting everyone know that's watching this. We're not actually going to be commentating on this because we're not looking to talk about that game. It's just a fun little background thing if you guys want to see, Aaron play or Domination as a game as a whole. I do believe that game ended up almost dying and just barely eking out that win.
Oh yeah, got to get those last couple points. All right.
I feel it's how a lot of your domination matches go, Aaron. It's like really close, like that close.
well, except for the one that I lost was not that way. This couple came and they had never played Domination. They didn't realize that they were supposed to have their own book. And I was like, okay, well, here's my 4 books. You can use whichever one you want. And they got the Jaktari Beastmaster. And so I was like, okay, this is how it normally opens up. And their first boulder, they seriously rolled 10 damage. And I'm like, you get the orb on turn 1?
Yeah.
What? And so it was kind of downhill from there. The rest of them were all pretty close. But that one was just, yep, you got me.
A fairly dominating domination match then.
Yeah, I was playing the Warlord I had, and it did not get off to that fast of a start. So
Yeah.
that's putting it conservatively. And part of that was my rolls, and part of that was that's just a slower book. But yeah, so the end result was I think it was 12-5.
Oh.
They're looking at this like, this is the developer? No.
Well, at least they get to watch a game that I won as opposed to
right?
this one, which, I could be making all this up. I never lost. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no. We have no recording of the losing game. For sure.
So, do you want to start us off? You have the list of questions in front of you.
I do. I'm
Just,
sitting next to it.
Throw one
I'm
out
gonna
of
move the laptop over here, actually.
real quick.
Yeah.
We're only semi-professionals, so we don't remember all of these by heart. So, we're just gonna...
So for anyone that doesn't know, Aaron, you are the community manager and a designer for Mage Wars. And so I guess you want to start us off with a...
Yeah, sure. I'll start it off. We've never met personally, but I've heard a lot about you. I know you by reputation. How did you get involved in the first place with Arcane Wonders?
So before I worked for Arcane Wonders, I worked at a couple different retail game stores in northeastern Indiana, where I'm from. And I met Brian at the Alliance Open House 1 year, and this was before Mage Wars had came out. And he was like, hey, we're looking for playtesters. And my friend John and I were like, okay, let's give this a try. We'll see what this game's like. And I remember being sent the original playtest kit, which playtesting now is way different than that was, because we got a giant box, and it had cards that Brian printed on his home printer.
Yes, that is
Now,
awesome.
people hear that and they think, oh man, these must have been jank. But no, Brian has a ludicrous paper cutter, and he has a ridiculous printer, so these cards were just ridiculously good quality for the. Now, there was placeholder art on everything, because we had gotten involved before most of the finished art for the core set was done, and so it was all this crazy filler art that was it was quintessentially Brian. He really loves having art on everything, even in playtesting, to give a good feel for what the card's supposed to do. But sometimes you end up with really weird pieces here and there. But we sat down, we played it, or rather, we sat down, read the rule book, and I look at John and I'm like, well, there might be something here. This sounds interesting. We played through the first game, like, no, there's something here. This is pretty sweet. Granted, we then told Brian, hey, yeah, we have a couple questions. Our first game took 3.5 hours.
Oh, jeez.
And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. No, it was okay. Like, we didn't think it was a big deal because we're like, there's tons of text, stuff going on. We were reading stuff all the time.
Learning the rules.
We weren't sitting there going, oh my God, this game is not doing anything. We were sitting there going, okay, I've got all these options. What do I do? And
I can do so much.
And he was like, seriously, 3.5 hours? We're like, what, is that not normal? and his response was, no. He's like, no, it's like hour and a half, 2 hours. And we're like, oh, well, we'll let you know if it doesn't get faster. Which, it did a lot. Like, my games now take like an hour and a half, maybe. But a lot of, like I tell new players, a lot of that comes from you being the one who actually designs your book, because then you know why you put the spells in there. You know what you have everything for, so then you know when you're going to pull out this spell over that spell, stuff like that.
Yeah, that is one of the great things about Mage Wars, is you can literally make a book that just rushes, and you're going to be done in like 30 minutes.
Oh, yes. Yeah, once you know the game, it does go a lot quicker.
So I guess you're a major part of the design process. Can you tell us a little bit more what it's like to like design a new card for Mage Wars?
Well, actually, so part of my job, obviously, is designing new cards. So, for instance, this morning, those are awesome kneecaps.
we're not using that camera.
He wants us to look at this camera, not you. But
right, yeah.
Aaron
Sorry.
can only see us. Aaron can only see us this way.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right.
Okay.
We can.
So, like this morning, I was thinking, hey, what would a cool Paladin card be? And I just had a random idea. So I made the card, and then I'm going to be discussing it with Brian later this week, and we're going to see if it actually gets kept, what happens, whether he likes the idea or not. A lot of my job is to take ideas and give them a tangible form. Because like Brian will say, oh my gosh, I think we really need some awesome fire attack spell with someone throwing a flaming trident. That's what we need. And then he's like, Aaron, build me this card.
You're like, okay.
And so then I'm like, well, here are your options. These are the ideas I had. And then generally from there, Brian will go, I like this, I didn't like that, and kind of push back and forth. And a lot of times out of that comes a better card.
In the designing process, like each expansion can have like 50, 60 new cards, things like that. How many cards do you think usually get like you have do you usually have more cards and then you start nixing them down? Or like is there like ever like a troublesome point where it's like, I really want this card, but this card needs to go in the set now and we'll consider it for the next expansion? I don't know. Is there something like that?
Actually, yeah. When we did Forged in Fire, we had, generally when we have sets, we have way more cards than we need, but part of that is because we know we're going to try and cut down to the best stuff at the end. And when we were doing Forged in Fire, there's like 3 or 4 cards that I was like, oh, this is such a pain to cut.
I see, yeah.
And at least one of them I'm really hoping I can sneak into Paladin Siren. But so often it's, the first few cuts are like, okay, this all makes sense. These cards either aren't working or it's not fitting what we're going for. But once you get down to where you're like, this is how many cards the set's going to have, that means we need to get rid of 2 more cards. Or sometimes, we're lucky, like in Academy, it was actually, this is how many cards we've decided on. that means we can include like 3 more cards than we thought we could.
Oh, that is awesome. Yeah.
Which was great. And then it was, well, we're including a couple more cards, and Brian wanted to make sure that people had 4 copies of Crumble and Disperse.
That makes
sense. So I was like, well, that makes sense. But that is the exception. Usually it's much tougher to cut down than to add back up, but it's also much tougher to spontaneously create a card out of nothing when you realize that you need 2 cards left on the sheet or something like that. So
I can definitely see that.
So facing that into the next question, and not that we're searching for compliments or anything, but what is it like working with the playtesters? Like, tell people what that process is like, because I know that you recently actually brought in a lot of new playtesters into the mix. So what's that been? How has that been going for you?
So my job with the playtesters, and this has been something I've been doing both officially and unofficially since Druid Necro, I think. But part of my job is to be able to take all the feedback that I get from the playtesters, take it to Brian and say, this is what they're concerned about, this is what works on this card, this is what doesn't, this is what they're telling me about their games, and then getting it so that he can see what you guys see, which is... Oftentimes it's really rewarding, especially when I can get something to go the way that I feel is best. Like when the playtesters have an idea and it's a fantastic idea, and that's the way the card should be, and they want it that way, and getting Brian to see that and getting all of that out and rolling, that's the best part. Now, the flip side is oftentimes I have to go to Brian and say, this is the playtester thoughts on XYZ card. I don't agree with them, but this is me. Well, this is me giving an unbiased thing of like, I want to make sure you have all the information. This is how they feel about it, which is difficult because at the same time it's like, sometimes you think like, oh, I'm the designer. Well, I don't agree with the playtesters, so I'm just going to do my thing. But it's nice that I'm not the final person on any of this.
Yes.
At least at the moment.
Playtesters in the end will get mad at you, I guess.
Well, it goes both ways. I mean, I try not to be like when talking to playtesters, I don't hide, hey, this is what I think about this. But at the same time, I want to make sure that when I'm telling Brian that playtesters think this card is a problem, that he understands, because I want to make sure that he's getting the full picture before we make some decision about the card, because there have been a few times where I've said, hey, I don't believe that this particular line of reasoning is correct on some card, and Brian will bring up a point and I'll go, well, we need to look at this again, and then we end up going a slightly different direction because of that. So there are good things that come out of it, but at the same time, when a lot of times I end up being the voice for the playtesters, whether or not I agree with them. But the plus side is oftentimes, there's a lot of good stuff to pass on, so it's not that hard. Like, it's not a problem.
Very cool. So I guess moving on, what do you think the best designed card for Mage Wars is? What is the pinnacle of Mage Wars design, and what's the card that you use to set the bar by which other cards are judged? You've got a new card coming out. You can say, oh, we can compare it to this and say that it's balanced or whatever. It's a tough way to phrase it.
Honestly, the design that I am most happy with, on a set of cards are actually it's in Conquest of Kumanjaro, the 3 cards with Intercept. Because we were at the ACD show. We were driving Brian to the airport, and I seriously said, Brian, shouldn't Intercept work like this? And he was like, Yeah, no, it should. And the crazy part
All the
is
light bulbs, yeah.
the crazy part is all those cards. Basically, in the next week, we had designed the frame on all those cards, and they didn't take much tweaking, and they ended up being solid, and they fulfill their role really well, and they're very generally useful. So they're the ones that I look at and I go, that was some of the best design we made, because it fits a very specific role, it does its job very well, and it's interesting. And apart from the Warlord one, they all see a lot of play. And
I absolutely agree
the
with
Warlord
that.
one
Yeah.
decidedly sees more play now than it did, a year and a half ago. So.
Oh man, the Fortune Fire was so perfect for the Warlord.
Absolutely. And no, I agree with you. Those intercept creatures, people really like them. I've never heard anybody complain about them. They just said, yeah, Guardian Angel's a pretty good card.
It's good. It is just good.
Gargoyle Sentry, what is that card for? I've never heard that. I've literally never heard that sentence.
So I would agree with that. That's a pretty good take on it.
I guess speaking of like design cards, so is there have you ever seen someone play a card in Mage Wars then that you weren't expecting, like coming out of playtesting and things like that? That was just like, oh, they're using this card in this way.
Well,
It's a tough question.
I guess did
No,
anything
no,
take you by surprise? I guess is what we're asking. Yeah.
Oh no! Now I will say that comes up more often in playtesting than after playtesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, like in when we were playtesting the core set originally, Marked for Death did not say creature. It was when this is attacked, you roll an extra die. So we had someone push through a wall of thorns with it, and they were doing like 10 3-die attacks.
No way.
And so we immediately looked at that and went, no. Now,
Tone it down.
Shadow has a fantastic story where in playtesting he pushed a guy through the wall and back through the wall, and so he rolled like 30 dice or something. I can't remember how much he ended up with. He got 0. He seriously rolled blanks on all of them. Yeah, he's like, well, I lost. This is awesome.
Oh man.
It was pretty crazy.
Not because I made a tactical error, but because the game
Shadow.
decided that I lost.
But
awesome.
but yeah, so I mean that happens a lot more often in playtesting than outside of that. I will say that as I started getting more involved, that was kind of right when Forcemaster Warlord had come out, and so Hand of Ben Shala did not see that one coming.
Yeah.
Did not see
The
because
Battle Fury.
whenever we played it, we're like, oh, you toss 1 or 2 in a back corner and you're done. But no, having someone basically plant half the board with them, that was not something we saw. Like, oh, you're actually going to do it.
And then Battle Fury on top of that, and just like, oh, it's double.
It's that saturation concept we were talking about. When you saturate with any one card, you often reveal the strengths and weaknesses of it. And somebody to do that with Hand of Bimshala, it's completely outside the design
we have a theory right now that if you mass certain cards, you can make very solid decks that are hard to counter.
Those individual cards become more effective the more of them you have.
Dispel,
Rajan's Fury, Dissolve, Jinx, we just saw at the tournament.
That was a good example. Was another one.
Eagles.
Eagles, yeah.
Eagles. As a general rule, I found the more eagles that I have on my person, the better I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, moving that, what expansion are you personally most excited to see between the Academy sets coming out and the mention of Paladin vs. Siren or anything else that we may not know about? What expansion are you most excited to see for Mage Wars?
Expansion I'm most excited to see. Honestly, to me, I'm most excited to see probably the male Force Master, female Wizard, and this has nothing to do with making cards for Wizard, but this is if you've seen the art for both of them, I love the character designs for both of them. I want to get to them, and so that I get to explore that. That, and also I want to try and convince Brian that the male Force Master needs to be a Green Lantern.
Yes.
I want lots. I want constructs and craziness and all sorts of stuff.
Whatever he wants, he can make.
Oh my god!
That would be good.
His name needs to be something like Jal Horden or something like that.
We'll probably put that art up there,
Definitely,
on this video, so you can see it.
Somewhere out there.
You can get it.
I haven't seen any of that artwork.
Oh,
that
man.
sounds awesome.
Oh man, they look so cool.
I'm so excited.
The male Force Master looks.
Does he really?
Awesome.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I think
like,
the female wizard has an owl
He's like
or
just
something
kind of
with him.
badassly levitating there.
Yeah. People are like, levitation.
He's like walking
She's super awesome. She's got her like owl, and she just looks great.
She's got like a scroll, and
That's super
there's
cool.
tons of really interesting things with it.
Yeah. So I mean, apart from that, obviously, I'm actually excited to then try and work on this Barbarian Mage that Brian had talked about at GenCon. Mostly because I was the one who told him, you know what we need? We need a mage who summons dinosaurs. And he said, he goes, yeah, no, we totally need one of those.
Yes,
And so now he has this idea of this
that.
Conan-style crazy like buff mage summoning dinosaurs.
Have you guys talked
That's
about?
awesome.
Have you guys maybe talked about him riding a dinosaur at all?
No.
Okay.
But that being
because
said,
you
I know
love
that mounts are a thing that Brian is really excited to try and do, and so that's something I get to work on. So if that's working by then, he might be able to ride a dinosaur.
Anything's possible, right?
I mean, I guess that jumps into a question.
I mean, you said something about Barbarian, but I think Brian might have mentioned the other counterpart, maybe the Sorcerer. Is there anything maybe you can say about that?
Yeah, there's been a lot of reveals about the Barbarian. Yeah, we've heard nothing about this sorcerer.
No, not at all.
Oh, well, see, then I think I should probably leave it that way. No, I'm just kidding. No, like, obviously these guys are, like, super far off. So anything to their playstyle or their cards is just nebulous at this point. We just have basic themes like, oh, we want the Barbarian to be savage and summon dinosaurs. And I know that Brian's vision of kind of a sorcerer is kind of this, like, Arabian Nights style, like, commune with extraplanar spirits sort of thing.
Oh, I dig that.
Like jinns and stuff like that.
Oh, that would be
I can so get behind that.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
But like I said, those are super far off, and like I know that our original pitch for the Siren several years ago, she was in a very different place than she is even 6 months ago, you know. So a lot can change, but that's the basic theming.
Cool.
Okay. How do you think Academy, changing gears here real quick to talk about not so much a future expansion as like a current one, how do you think Academy is going to affect the overall competitive meta? What cards do you think are totally going to shake up people's playstyles?
Specifically for Arena.
Yes, specifically for Arena.
Yes.
Academy cards being used in Arena. Obviously, Academy is going to introduce its own meta, and that's changing.
That hasn't
whatever.
even taken shape at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yet.
So
it's going to start.
What card in Academy is going to shape the Arena meta the most?
See if I'm right. I voted on a card. Let's see if
we've
I'm
taken
right.
bets.
I was gonna say, do you guys all have these like written down in front of you? You're gonna hold up the sign.
Actually,
we could write it down.
Write it down right now.
I mean, we're
And
going
if you're right,
I've
hold it up to
actually
the camera.
already done a video for this that hasn't been released yet, so I have my card on.
The proof is there. Okay.
All right,
so
really.
All right, interesting. Okay.
I'm gonna write it a little bigger because.
So it's tough for me to say one particular card because I think the real benefit of Academy is that we're able to give a bunch of these level 1s and 2 spells out there, and I think that ultimately the mage that's going to benefit most from Academy in general hasn't had her cards released yet.
Okay.
The Holy School is lacking in those level 1 to 2 spells, and so she's going to get a big infusion, and that's really going to help broaden what she can do. So I think she's the one who's going to benefit the most, but that's the set we're still working on. So as far as the one that was released at GenCon, the Beastmaster Wizard set, It's tough to say. Like I said, it's tough to say one card. But just hitting a couple of things. One I would say is Slavorg.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
As one of the other guys who works for AW, he loves silly gimmicky books, and so he's the guy who plays, 6 bats, Samandriel in a Beastmaster, and he's like, it's gonna be awesome because she'll be powered up, and then I'll play Slavorg for cheap.
Yeah, right. That'll be great.
Kill him with bats.
That'll
I don't
totally
care.
work out.
Yeah.
And that one's, I think, is really interesting because he gives them this sort of backup plan.
Yeah, it's an interaction, with,
which is unique to them.
For sure. I've never seen a card that interacts with the discard pile before, and as a recovering Magic the Gathering player,
Yes.
I can tell you that was one of my favorite things to do in that game, and bringing that mechanic here is interesting.
But as far as a single card,
I agree with this.
You agree with this?
yeah.
With this
Oh,
secret
yeah.
assessment that Aaron can't see right now?
We got to hear it. Come on, give us.
Okay, if I had to say only one card, probably Giant Size.
No!
Giant Size is great, though.
Arcane Ward.
Okay, no, that's totally fair though. That's totally fair.
You know, the Giant Size
I
is
have played
actually
far
really-
more
love
games
Giant
with
Size.
Giant Size though, so it's definitely in my brain.
I love all of the dissipate mechanics. They all seem like really, really fun cards.
I will say that it's awesome that I was able to. I'm not taking credit for this because once I pointed out to some people, they were totally behind it. But it was awesome that we were able to sneak a Druid card into the set because
absolutely,
Tango Root is totally a vine.
Man, I bet Giant Size. I have put like 3 of them down and then reveal them all at once. And my opponent's like, "What am I doing?"
They make a deck concept totally viable that was not before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like before, there were certain swarm cards that could just not work, and now they can, and it's great.
Weenies are back.
So
I will say the enchantments in the set in general, they give a lot more viability to the level 1s and 2 creatures.
Yes.
Yeah.
Badger Frenzy is freaking amazing.
Oh yeah, especially
That's a good
with
one.
especially with that Dark Fiend Asp.
Yeah.
You can do
Oh,
some crazy combos.
Man,
with that.
Dark Fiend Asp, that guy.
We're just gonna sit here talking about cards people haven't seen. It's gonna be great.
So I mean, we talked about Academy, and we talked about what happens after Paladin versus Siren. But is there anything you want to give us insight more on Paladin versus Siren? Like maybe what the goals of the Paladin you think are, or what you guys are discussing right now, or with Siren in general?
So it's a lot easier to kind of like. It's weird because the Siren, you say Siren, and there's really only one thing that comes to mind. It's the song. So the rest of the character, we can kind of do with what we want.
I mean, I think
it is a
Starbucks
mage.
sometimes, but
That's just because you were a former corporate wage slave.
But so there's a lot of that character that we get to sculpt how we want her. Now the Paladin is a lot trickier because you say Paladin, everyone has an idea in their head of exactly what a Paladin should be.
Sure.
That's fair. Yeah.
And like if you compare like a Paladin in D&D and a Paladin in World of Warcraft and a Paladin in some traditional literature,
Be still, my heart.
they're all gonna be different. My wife actually made me read there's a book called 3 Hearts and 3 Lions. It's by Poul Anderson. He's a Danish author, I think. But basically, it's this awesome kind of fantasy book about this guy who gets sucked back in time, and he finds out that he is actually one of Charlemagne's knights, which is where the term paladin comes from,
Okay.
is Charlemagne's knights.
Yeah.
And it's this whole, it's a short book, it's fantastic, and she found it because it was on Gary Gygax's reading list. It's why he put a paladin in D&D. So she's like, if you're going to make a paladin, you have to read this.
Yeah. It's
so I
the
did.
source
It was the
material.
original inspiration. Yeah.
It's fantastic, and it's tough to figure out which parts of all these various ideas you want to use in the Paladin. At the end of the day, there are hallmark aspects. We know that we want him to be, kind of this sort of agent of retribution, so to speak. Because there are three holy deities in the Mage Wars world. There's a Siren, who's kind of the overarching, like the greater good deity. Ben Shala is specifically healing and
Protection,
caretaking and protection and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then there's the Dawnbreaker, which is retribution, justice, all these things.
So then where does Malachi
where does
fit?
Malachi fit in?
He is one of Asira's archangels.
Oh, okay. So we're getting major insight into like lore and pantheon stuff here. We've been playing the game for a long time. This is cool.
But yeah, so he's technically inside of the Asira thing. Technically,
Priest and the priestess then are
very
connected
similar,
because
and
Malachi's not a different god. He's just another member
So they're
of
using
that
the same-
pantheon.
that does make sense.
Priest or priestess cards.
So then
yeah.
the paladin is going to be like a paladin of Bimshala or like a paladin of this Dawnbreaker, right?
Right now, we're hoping to make him a paladin of the Dawnbreaker.
That is so cool.
okay.
That is really neat.
I also noticed. Oh wait, you know what? No, I can't say anything about.
Nope.
Nope.
Redact this
So-
whole part.
Moving on.
So I guess being a god of,
Redacted.
Oh wait, no. What? No.
I guess being a god of like Dawnbreaker, what does that imply?
I'm not sure.
For the paladin, like, are we gonna see like? I mean, obviously we're gonna see cards that the priest and priestess could use, but like, are we gonna see a different type of holy mage come out of him then?
I hope so. I mean, ideally, we want each of the mages to have a flair that's all their own.
Yeah.
And so we want there to be a reason that you'd pick each of them, and the paladin is going to be definitely more militant, more aggressive than, like, say, the priestess. The priestess is kind of that traditional support,
Absolutely.
Yes.
I can make you better
Absolutely.
at just about whatever I need to.
Yeah.
Whereas the paladin is going to, we're kind of shooting for the, you broke something of mine. Well, I will break two of yours.
That is really interesting.
Nice.
That is a really cool concept.
Well, color
So,
me interested.
I guess if we're going to talk about, do you want?
I was just going to actually pretty much ask the opposite question. So we've experienced Earth through the Warlord, Fire through Warlocks, and then Air mostly through the Wizard. So then we have one more element, one more sub-school that hasn't been explored much. So besides the Siren herself, what can we expect out of the Water School coming in? Because it is really the last domain that hasn't barely been touched up on.
And to add to that, are we going to see that spell everyone's been waiting for? Some sort of freeze mechanic? I don't know. Something with defrost?
Something with frost and all? Something to make the bearskin armor any good?
No.
In time.
In all honesty, Frost is one of the more complicated mechanics, and I know that Brian and I have, in the past, have gone back and forth about it. I have a particular way I would like to try and design it. He has a different way, and unfortunately, they do not mesh as well as you would hope. Unfortunately, there's more work to it than we will probably be able to finish before Paladin Siren. That doesn't mean I'm not going to try, because I want to get Frost out. I mean, I seriously want to be able to, advertise an upcoming set with just picture of mage and says winter is coming.
Yes.
So, but at the same time, the other flip side of that is thematically, it doesn't fit as well for the Siren as we'd like.
It's very fair.
It's not like opposed to her thematically, but at the same time, this kind of stuff she's using is going to be more waves and tide and all that kind of stuff, as opposed to
it makes sense water
ice.
instead of...
So
More of an ocean feel than a glacial feel.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, fair enough.
That's fair.
And we're definitely looking at a few pretty interesting waves and stuff like that to go, because at the same time we don't want to print like this is the 4th version of Surging Wave. Congratulations, you get to slam and push people again.
Right.
But at the same time, we want to be able to do interesting, cool stuff with it, and there's definitely a lot of space for water.
Cool.
Awesome.
So to close it out on kind of a difficult one, this is something that's popped up a lot in the community lately, especially since the tournament at GenCon. There's a perception among what I believe to be a vocal minority in the Mage Wars community that believes that the wizard is a bit on the strong side. Some would say overpowered.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I guess it's difficult to say to phrase it in the manner of a specific question because there's so many different angles to cover.
Like if we want to angle it like a certain way, right now people say that the Wizard's Tower in particular, because you can switch the spells out.
They point to that as being
a problematic card.
A card that's too strong.
Yeah.
Well, as far as the Wizard's Tower specifically, it does a lot. I mean, and nobody's going to walk up to it and go, well, screw that card. No, it's... Yeah, this isn't worth my time. No, is it too good? I don't know. And the reason I say that is I can totally see the argument for it being too good, because it does a lot of stuff. It gives a pretty crazy amount of utility to what is effectively the Swiss Army knife mage.
Yeah.
And it to go back to something that I know some of the people in the forums had talked about before. It's got a spell book, like a spell point advantage that can get pretty crazy. So no, I totally see where people are coming from. At the same time, when I look at something like that, I came from a background playing a lot of competitive card games. I played Versus, Magic, probably 2 dozen other card games at different points. There was a guy I was playing in Versus, and we sat there and we tried to figure out who had played more collectible card games. And at the time, I had to stop at like 19. Jeez, and he was like, well, I got you beat. I have 23. And I was like, well, yeah, I lose. But so, I mean, I've been parts of a lot of these sort of competitive communities, and then on top of that, the competitive communities in various minis games, because I'm a sucker for a minis game. But
I can see that. Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is, the last thing I want to do is ban anything, because at the end of the day, especially. Like, right now I play UFS, and I love the game dearly, and that's kind of my hobby unwinding game. But they've banned a card in each of the last 3 sets. And so I'm like, awesome! I love this new set. Which card do I like is going to be banned? But I do have to give them props. They've been really good about how they've been handling everything, and their design has really improved. So... at the same time, it's like I'm always loath to ban or errata anything, because I want you to be able to take the card that you got and to just play it, and to not have to go through, the supplement, or not have to go through extra stuff to figure out, is that really how it works? At the same time, I think we've already shown that if something really needs it, we're going to make adjustments. Now, the problem with the wizard in general is that, whereas I would say there are a fair number of people who would all say the wizard is overpowered, ask any 3 of them and they will give you 3 different answers as to why the wizard is overpowered.
Interesting.
It's the wizard's tower. It's totally the wizard's tower. Some, it's he doesn't have a double cost school. That's clearly it. Some, it's he has 2 of the best, class abilities in the game.
And and Hanma came out, or Nick that won Gen Con, he was saying Jinx was the reason why.
No, and that's the thing is that you, like I said, you ask a bunch of people, and they have a fair chance of all giving you different reasons, and I don't think that they're necessarily wrong because they're all good points. But at the same time, especially if I'm going to solve a problem, then I want to make sure that we're actually addressing the issue and not, oh, well, I errata Wizard's Tower. Oh, well, next week that didn't stop things. I have to errata this now too.
I see.
I have to do
Yeah.
And so it's the old Carpenter thing of measure twice, cut once.
You don't want to set off like a hotfix spiral where you just keep fixing cards until eventually the cards are unrecognizable behind the mess of band-aids you've applied.
Oh, absolutely. Kind of like modern Magic when they started banning things to get rid of a deck, and then you realize that now we're playing all these different decks, so now we have to ban these cards, but we could unban these, but when we did, it was crazy, and trying to figure that out was insanity.
And releasing mice to deal with your elephants, and then releasing cats to deal with your mice.
And I don't think anyone wants to see the wizard be banned.
No one wants to watch you
everybody likes the wizard.
Exactly.
So
my natural approach to that stuff is to try Forge and Fire was the first opportunity we had to go, hey, here's two mages that could use extra tools, let's give them extra tools. And I think that worked out pretty well. Now, yes, it was not meant to be like suddenly Warlord goes from bottom to top, but it was meant to be like, hey, you guys, I'm not the dude at the end of the bus now, I'm in the middle.
Yeah, I'm playable
and
now.
And so there were definitely a lot more tools there. The problem with my desired approach is that we've been working on so much that the only way that approach works is if I can get you guys more sets, and I can get you guys stuff like Academy and Paladin Siren to get more cards to help give these guys, the other players, other mages, more tools. And that's, to me, I think that's the best way to handle it, is to sit there and look at it and go, hey, what can we do that's going to be good to help make this a better environment? I know, people keep pointing out, hey, you could just play Rolling Fog, and that really hampers a Wizard's Tower.
It really does.
And that's true.
Problem. Yeah.
But that's one card.
Yeah.
In one school. So getting more tools out there, which is difficult because you want everyone to have tools to be able to accomplish their goals and to be able to, frustrate their opponents, but you don't want to go, I think they also need a long-range nuking spell that causes burn. I think everyone needs one of those. You don't want it to become, Brian calls it, chocolate soup, where it's just everything's the same. We're just gonna mix it all together, and then it's.
So you don't want it to be D&D 4th Ed.
Oh, a little bit of a slam towards Wizards of the Coast.
Wow.
You're not a 4th Ed sympathizer, are you?
I freaking love 4th edition.
Oh, heretic! Cut the feed. We're done here.
I've been hiding for a long time.
I really like
4th edition too.
I will say that 5th edition is fantastic, though. They did a freaking amazing job with 5th.
I've heard very good things.
It's stellar. I look at it, and the things I like to do in design is try and get things streamlined and trying to get things smooth. And you look at 5th edition, and that is an elegant system, and it's beautiful. So one of my reps when I was working at the game store, he was like, "You realize why you like 4th edition?" And I go, "Why is that?" He goes, "It's a tactical miniatures game."
Yep.
And I was like, that is a good portion of why I like 4th edition.
I spent about, this is totally off topic, and this will definitely get cut from the final interview, but I want to mention it because you're a 4th Ed fan. I spent about a year modding 4th edition to be able to play a mech RPG with it, and nothing happened with it. It didn't work, and I was sad.
Yeah.
It's a sad day.
Yeah.
I used to judge at the D&D championship at GenCon,
That is
where it was my job to wipe your table. The year before I started doing that, they actually had shirts that said, D&D championship, we kill more PCs before 9 a.m. than other people do all con. So it was pretty awesome.
Well, I guess before we deviate any further, it was great having you on.
It was.
And
to close out the interview, this is non-traditional, but we're not about tradition. Do you have any questions for us?
Do I have any questions for you guys? Okay, so apart from Mage Wars, what's your favorite game? Because I always tell, my wife knows deep down that I am a card flopper. I love card games. But, so, what's your favorite game?
Well, why don't we go in a row here?
I was already going to interrupt you and answer. I play all of the types of games. So right now I'm big on Burning Wheel. Which is an awesome RPG, tabletop or pen paper RPG that made by Luke Rain. And the Burning Wheel system. So.
The Burning Wheel system is amazing.
Oh my god,
it is
good. So elegant. You speak of elegantly designed systems. Point your attention towards the Burning Wheel, my friend. What about you?
I would have to say probably, the biggest game that I've gotten really into was probably StarCraft 2.
Oh yeah.
I made top 2%, and I spent a lot of time figuring out certain strategies and things like that, and it was just a very intricate game, and I'm actually pretty excited for the new expansion because
it sounds pretty sweet.
I've been talking with Schwengard, and apparently he plays too. So I got a training partner over in Germany.
So, do you know what his name means?
Yes, I actually looked it up because I was really curious.
I was going to say, Psych told me that it evidently means Grill Master.
That's awesome! Yeah. That is so cool!
So I was like, wow, that's great.
He's the George Foreman of Germany.
He loves David Hasselhoff,
right?
That's for sure.
Yeah, whenever we think of him, we think of David Hasselhoff. We cannot.
I don't know what he looks
in
like.
our heads, and I hope to never actually see his face because he will always be that to me.
He looks like David Hasselhoff.
Pretty sure he is David Hasselhoff.
Yeah,
he might
be just David Hasselhoff. Well, I think that's about it. We've hit all of our questions.
Yeah. Is your favorite game Burning Wheel too?
My favorite game is absolutely.
Wow,
I was fully prepared. He said, "What's your favorite game?" And I looked at Nathan, and I was fully prepared to just go Burning Wheel. And I knew it was going to be in unison. I knew it was going to be.
Out of curiosity, have you guys ever heard of 13th Age?
I have heard of it. I have not gotten a chance to play it because
13th Age is kind of an unholy abomination that's amazing.
Oh my.
It's the lead designer from 3rd edition D&D.
Okay.
And the lead designer from 4th edition D&D. And they made a game together.
Oh,
no way.
Yeah, you think it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
All right.
The thing is, evidently, years before they worked for WotC, they played in home games together and stuff, and they're super cool. It's a very cool system. You should check it out if you have a chance.
I'll give it a shot.
All right.
Definitely. Absolutely.
The nerd community is small but tightly bound.
All right, well, I guess that closes us out this time, although this was really great and a success, so we'll be seeing you again soon, Aaron.
For sure.
Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. You had an awesome interview. It was great. Thank you for talking about all the things we asked and, not holding back.
It was great to meet you. I was surprised to find how much we have in common. Perhaps we'll do this again sometime.
No, totally.
All right. Well, we'll see you around, everybody.
Have a good one.
I guess I should say press that button, because I always forget to say it.
Subscribe.
So press that button.
Subscribe and like. It super helps.
And hope you guys like that game of Domination, too, while we were talking over it.
Yeah.
Although this probably went longer than that game, so we probably have to put something else.
Or put some other things in there.
See, I'm just going to wait for you guys to, splice in. Here's a picture of Godzilla scooting across on his tail across the screen. Here's a picture of... gosh, I'm trying to think of other crazy stuff.
Now that you said that,
Our editor is in the room.
He's watching.
Thanks for the extra work.
All right, man. We'll see you guys later.
Have a good night.
Take care.
We're gonna stop recording now, Aaron. And
yeah.
He says that, but he's like, shh.
Yeah.
Let's get him to talk about all this stuff.